And clear of the closing doors, please.
What up, son? What up? Grind and Pivot, Queens, New York, Louis Max. Today, a pop hook master, actor, radio DJ. By the way, his first couple of albums are in my DNA. I actually still have them. He has some great new things happening. We're going to delve into the past a little bit. Someday, some way, that is. Detroit, Michigan's Marshall Crenshaw. Mr. Crenshaw, how you doing, brother?
Doing great, Louis. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you. Although you say that we've seen each other before, I'm taking your word for it. The items, right?
Yeah, you were a young buck back then, right on the right before the first record came out, and it was an intense sound check. It was a very intense sound check.
Oh no! Wow.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
I know. I'm sure you don't. But I'm going to ask you about what was going on back then anyway. So honored to speak with you. So glad you're reissuing 447. Nowadays, with some of your young followers, probably say hashtag 447 when they see that, right?
Sure. Yeah. I never heard of a hashtag back when this album first came out, when it was first named. But yeah, that's what it is, right? It's a hashtag.
That's what they say, I guess. I mean, I'm looking at it.
I'm not even sure what that even means, honestly.
I know. It's true. And actually, I want to just show everybody out there that I still have it in my original CD. So I get street cred with Marshall Crenshaw.
The Jewel Box.
There you go, Jewel Box. Yeah. How's it been for you during the pandemic the last couple of years?
Awful. Well, I mean, it's horrible. It's like very heartbreaking. That was the first sensation attached to it for me, was just complete heartbreak and disbelief. A pandemic, right? And I was, on a really nice roll at the end of 2019, going into 2020. Life was, and as soon as I kind of understood, I mean, I didn't even believe it at first, but as soon as I understood that I was going to lose my day-to-day life, it just made me so sad, because I really understood how much I loved it, just being out in the world all the time. And then right away, two people in my orbit got COVID and died right back in April or whatever it was. It just was overwhelming. And, but then, over time, but it's like such a, like a real bop on the head for humanity, I think. It's like, oops.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fortunately, nobody in my family, my immediate family, had any problems with it. And, my wife and I and our two kids, we've skated through it so far, but it's a hell of a thing.
Yeah, me too, as well. Yeah, life changing. Did you end up getting a lot of work done musically at all once you kind of figured out what was happening?
I did. Once the initial couple months went by, I started to get really busy with a lot of stuff. So that's okay. I mean, good to be busy. And I'm so glad that I was, because it took my mind off the crummy emotional thing of it. But anyway, I got busy with reissue albums, not just this one that we're talking about today, but there's just different things in the pipeline. There was a live album that came out at the end of last year. There's a 40th anniversary of my first album that comes out in November. So that really actually took a lot of, it's something that's, like a serious effort being made on that. So all that stuff. And then starting last June, I was playing shows again, and I played shows from June all the way through to December of last year. I thought I was going to just keep going with that, but then January I had 2 shows get postponed, and then February 2 other shows get postponed. But we're just kind of groping our way along, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I've been busy. I've been like really busy and enjoying the stuff I've been doing.
That's great. So let's go back a little bit. Great career. I've been following it quite a bit, but let's try to touch back a little bit and cover a couple of things. Just the Beatlemania gig. Do you remember how you actually landed that?
Oh yeah, I remember it. First, I let me see. I was out west. This is like a long story, but anyhow, I was traveling around the West, and I picked up a Rolling Stone magazine one day at a drugstore in, I think, Greeley, Colorado, perhaps it was. And I just saw a classified ad in the back of the magazine, open casting call for Beatlemania. And I don't know why it struck me, but just this light bulb went over my head. I have some pictures of myself from when I was in my late teens where I look like John Lennon. And of course, I idolized him as a kid, so I just thought I'd take a crack at it. I don't know. It just was like a funny moment, but I called the 212 number. I wound up sending them a picture and a tape, and they got interested from that. But then there was this little interim period where I was back in the Detroit area for a minute, and I heard from New York, like New York called on the phone.
Right.
And so they wound up sending the music director out to the Detroit area to audition me. And the music director was a guy named Sandy Yaguda, member of Jay and the Americans.
Yes.
Right. And anyway, Sandy came out, and they held they turned it into a little bit of a media event in the Detroit area because they were planning on launching a touring company of the show. So anyhow, my picture was in the paper with Sandy. They had the audition at the Royal Oak Theater where I saw Hard Day's Night, I think. And it was an open casting call too, but like they already knew that they were going to hire me, and they held open auditions. And then that was it. Like 3 weeks later, my wife and I got on a plane and went to New York.
Wow.
And that was it. We stayed there. We never went back to Michigan, and we never have.
Right.
So,
That's amazing.
It was really cool,
Yeah, well, pivotal moment, I would say, huh? In your life.
Most certainly. Yeah, it was a crossroads thing in my life for sure.
Wow, that's a cool story. So your first couple of releases were on Warner Brothers. Take us through how you actually got your deal, and from what you remember, I mean, the first record is just absolutely amazing. As I said, it's embedded in my DNA. I'm going to ask you a few questions soon about some of the songs and where some of those people might be, but your first one was actually produced by Richard Goddard. Talk about maybe recording some of those things, because I know you had your brother, right? Your brother was on that record, right. And Chris Donato, right? So tell us a little bit about how the deal emanated and what you remember about the gig.
Well, I mean, I always knew that I wanted to do something with popular music as a way to live my life and a career path and all that. There's never any other thing in my mind other than that. And but I didn't exactly know how it might play out. I didn't have a game plan until after I'd been in Beatlemania, and then it started to formulate in my mind, and I wound up deciding to be to have my own thing, like my own body of work, and it just all started to come together in my mind. After all the traveling I'd done around the country the couple of years previous, I guess I just got inspired or something. But anyway, I remember I was in Boston with the show, and I would listen to WBCN every day because they played a lot of like new wave rock, and I heard one day on the radio, I heard "London Calling" by The Clash,
right? Sure.
For the first time. You know, don't look to us. Phony Beatlemania has bitten the dust. You know that line in that song, and that came out of the radio, and it was just like boom, boom, boom. You know, like I couldn't believe it, and that wasn't entirely why I quit the show, but I did. I wound up quitting the show in Boston, and I was writing songs myself, but they weren't just songs. You know, like again, they were part of a body of work, like. It was a thing, you know, I don't know. So I quit the show. I got another offer from a Beatle band to join. It was a band called Rain, and they're still around.
Right, a tribute band, right? Like a tribute type band back then?
Yeah, they were around back then, and they still are. But, you know, They heard that I had quit Beatlemania, so I got a phone call in my hotel room. I told my wife about it, and she said, forget it. Dumb idea. You can't do it. And so I had her support, you know, for whatever I was going to do. So anyway, I just got back to New York and started conspiring. You know, my brother, Robert, I wanted to work with him. We held auditions and got Kristen Otto. Meanwhile, I'm recording and writing all the time. And then we just out into the New York scene and immediately caught on. People embraced what we did immediately, and that was, you know, the crowds in the clubs.
Right? Were you playing like Bitter End and Kenny's and all those clubs as well? Do you remember that? I didn't
play either of those, but I played like all the other ones. You know, we played CBGB's and
right.
Snafu and Peppermint Lounge. God, that was a huge one.
You're right.
And then you know, we could fill that place pretty quickly. And, I love that joint. And then the Ritz,
of course,
you mentioned the Ritz before, that became kind of our stronghold, but it snowballed really fast. Right. So that means, you know, the music industry found us right away, and so did the press. That's how I got the record deal. Is just I blew up New York City.
Wow, really?
You know, so I earned it. You know, that's what happened.
No doubt.
Back then, you had to do it like that.
Yeah. Village Voice was. I know Village Voice was a proponent, right?
They were. Yeah. It's like everybody liked us. It was kind of nice.
You like that, huh?
Yeah, it was great. I love that part of the story, the New York part.
Right. So let's talk about the first. Let's look back at the recording of the first album. What do you remember about that? And did you have the songs ready to go? How did you actually piece that together? And who picked Goddera?
Well, I knew Richard from Robert Gordon. Like one of the first things that happened was. I just kind of sprinkled these tapes around New York City, and the first person to call me back from one of those was Robert Gordon, but I hadn't given the tape to Robert. I'd given it to Richard, so he must have passed it on to Robert. So you could almost say that Richard Goddera discovered me, right? And anyhow, I wound up about a month and a half after I quit Beatlemania. I was in the record plant. I was working on a Robert Gordon album, and that was pretty cool. I mean, I was in fast company right away with that because it was Richard and Robert and Chris Spedding and Danny Gatton and Anton Fig and Tony Gagne, I think. No, Gary Talent was the bass player from the E Street Band.
Oh, really? Well, yeah.
I became friends with him right away, right then and there. But anyway, so I got signed to Warner Brothers. I had two offers and chose them, door number one or door number two. And I kind of bluffed my way in the producer's chair myself. I had a really hard time letting go of the auteur thing because I, made all these recordings at home, and they were really good. Those home recordings were what really generated everything else. like, do you know my version of "You're My Favorite Waste of Time"?
Yeah,
Do you
absolutely.
know that track? See, that was I did that in my apartment.
Wow.
On a 4-track reel-to-reel machine before I got signed to Warner. So I kind of already had my own sound and my own thing, but I didn't know how to take that into a 24-track studio with all solid state equipment and make it work the way I wanted it to. I didn't know how to do it. So I started the album out with myself as producer, but I was in over my head. A distress call had to go out for a producer to come in and save my ass. And that was Richard, because I knew him already.
Good choice.
And he had a number one record right at that time too. So the label was really, okay, well, that'll work. So Richard came in and we had a lot of fun and we did the record. You know, I had a history with him at that time.
Right.
So
you still in touch with Chris Donato at all?
Yes and no. I mean, it's not real, there's not a lot of contact, but yeah, we connected again a couple of years ago. I actually got a letter from him, like a real letter, from in my post office box. and it was really great,
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
And my brother, of course, I'm close with him. Always have been.
Absolutely. So that record, it had a lot of great songs, and we're going to get into the songwriting process in a second. But after that, you went, you had Field Day.
Yeah,
and I have it as well, which is I'm still looking at a young buck, young buck,
indeed.
That record was a little went to the right a little bit because of Steve Lillywhite. Now, how did that happen, and how do you feel about that whole production 40 years later?
Well, I did the second album very quickly after the first, which was kind of unorthodox, weird actually, but I got talked into making a second album that quickly after the first. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. It'll be fun, but it was a curveball to people. But anyway, it was just like things with Warner Brothers went bad really fast. And that's a long story too. But anyhow, so we're going to make the second album. And for me, I thought, this will be a good corrective for all the things that I didn't like about my first album. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
right.
I love the album. I love it. But, there's always, if you're, there's the artistic process. There's always something, to tweak or to do differently the next time. That's just how it is. So Steve Lillywhite was my idea. My call is the only producer I talked to, the first and last producer that I talked to. He immediately wanted to do it. I was like, this is it. Let's go. So that's how that happened. My A&R person in New York, a woman named Karen Berg, was like a really savvy, hip person. And there was no question in her mind that would work and go well, but we did have problems with the West Coast faction of the label, which was really the energy center of Warner Brothers. I was the East Coast signing.
Yeah, not in touch with you, really. Right.
I heard later on, it was explained to me that Warner's on the East Coast was like the poor cousin of the company, but I didn't know any of that. I didn't even want to know any of it either. I didn't care about the business part of anything.
Yeah, just want to play.
So, but that's what happened. We went into, and with Field Day, we'd already made a record. So we were like confident about the fact that we could do it. And we just all liked each other a lot and had a ton of fun. That's what happened with that.
Excellent. Yeah, because I know, it's funny. I looked through the catalog a little bit, and it started with Goddard, and then Lillywhite, and then it goes to T-Bone and Mitch Easter. I mean, you got a chock full of guys here.
And then all A-list people.
Don Dixon. I mean, incredible. Plus, you got different players. Graham Maybe, who I saw originally with on Joe Jackson's first tour. So
He's
I know
still with Joe.
it's crazy. It really is crazy. I saw them at the Bottom Line on Joe Jackson's Look Sharp tour the first time, and oh my wow, it was really really crazy. But yeah, you've gone through all these great producers, but I think you came full circle as well. You know, coming back to where you're in control a little bit more. And it's funny because we were talking about before. You know, I spent about 2 or 3 hours, and Marshall, I'm not kidding around, watching you in this club when we opened up for you, because the sound check, you must have been, you really wanted to get it right. And I got this feeling that, you really do have that, that control, but you really just want everything to be so right. And it's funny talking to you, and I got to tell you, talking to you, you're loose. You're loose. I expected, I don't know what I really expected, but it's interesting. I guess maybe maturity.
Maybe, yeah. I'm in a good mood too. So
yeah, there you go. I don't think you were in such a good mood. So talk about your songwriting process a little bit. Take us through your steps. How are you inspired? What gets you going? And then we'll kind of take some of those layers down.
Well, okay. I started writing songs just for one reason only, and that's because I wanted to make records. And I had like the sound in my head first, just what the records should be like. And it was just based on my own taste and my own, whatever that is. And so in order to make records, you need songs. And if you don't have good songs, then you can't make good records. So, but it was the records thing first, and then the songs to go with the sound. And starting in like the 70s, I was born in 1953. Starting in the 70s, I started to rediscover music that I loved during my childhood. I started to reconnect with 50s rock. That happened in the 70s after I had a couple of psychedelic experiences and had my mind anyway altered a little bit. Yeah, trying to like piece my brain back together. During that period, I hit on 50s rock again. I'm like, oh, I remember this stuff. And
love it.
It was really great, how that worked out. And songs. So, anyway, the songs were just kind of based on my own taste and based on what I wanted to do and how I felt and what kind of stuff I wanted to play. And also my guitar playing, it was kind of built around my guitar playing too. But how I actually went about doing it, it was like, I would just think of a groove, like a rhythmic feel, and build it up from there. That's how I still write a song. Music first, then lyrics, pretty much? Yeah, I think of a beat first. And now, like the last 20, 30 years, I might put, a loop together on a drum machine and then just kind of jam on top of that and craft it, into a song form. That's always how it's been. It's just like from the bottom up, and the atmosphere came first in my mind, and I don't know. I just try to write good stuff. Do the best I can. Cool.
Interesting. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Let's see about some songs that everybody loves, but I picked a couple of different ones. Inspiration. Who's Marianne?
Let me see. Marianne. First, the sound of the word as a song title. I thought that, it just sounds good as a song title. Can make a chorus around it, So that was it. I didn't know anybody named Marianne. I don't think I do even to this day. But it was just a song, like a word that would sound good in a song.
I love it.
But then cool. As far as like the real substance of the lyrics, there was a friend of mine whose his girlfriend married his best friend or something like that, right? So the lyrics are like you're consoling somebody, like life is an absurdity some of the time, and you just have to roll with it. And that's it. Don't blame yourself. That's what the song is about. Yeah.
Excellent. Two more. Whenever You're on My Mind.
Yeah, Whenever You're on My Mind. Music first, as always. And I was kind of channeling this song called When You Walk in the Room by Jackie DeShannon.
Absolutely. Great.
All-time favorite song of mine.
Great song.
And,
great song.
Yeah, and her record of it, there just isn't any other record of it but hers, as far as I'm concerned. I don't like the Searchers version or anybody else's version. I just like her.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I was channeling that one. It's the same kind of structure, it's like a guitar riff, then a verse, then a more guitar riff, that's all. I was just writing something on that model. And it's even in the same key. I'm in D major, just like her version. And then I got the title, and I went to this friend of mine, Bill Teeley, who was a lyric writer. And I said, Bill, I got the title for this. All you have to do is rewrite I Only Have Eyes for You. Just copy that song, and that'll be it. But then he made it, the lyrics are beautiful, and it's because he made it personal, and because he had a poetic thing that he was able to put into it. And that was it. We had a pop song, like a classic pop rock song. I think it's one of the best of all,
No doubt.
A great song.
No doubt. Now, Joe, that's cool. That's a cool story. Last one just for now. Tell Me All About It. There's a great line in Tell Me All About It about Adam and Eve. Now I do believe that it's just Adam. I mean, it's just amazing. Now I do believe that it's just like Adam learned with Eve. People can hide things up their sleeve, even when naked. I mean, dude,
that's
gold. That's gold, brother. That's gold.
It's gold, but it's all a guy named Richard Julian. The lyrics to that song are almost entirely his, and he's,
okay.
Yeah, he is a great lyric writer. I just reached out to him because I admired his work, and I just thought it'd be great to do something with him. And we were just trying to write a great rock and roll song. Whatever I got from him, I did tweak it a bit, but all those lines you just named, that's him. That's his style. That's his attitude.
Yeah. But it fit you. It fit you too, though, because you put it over. I mean, it's funny. I didn't do enough research on that, but it didn't matter because I loved, I heard the song and I'm like, holy Jesus, this is amazing. And that stuck out as well. But the song itself too. I mean, the melody is really right on. The hook is right on.
Yeah. I like it too.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit to your family life. I know you have two brothers, John and Robert, both involved, were involved musically as well. What was it like growing up in Detroit?
I have three brothers.
Three brothers.
Yeah. But my brother Mitchell was never in the band, but he was an influence on us. But
sorry,
anyway, it's okay. Go ahead. You didn't know. So what was the next part of it?
Growing up in Detroit, were you a good student, leader, follower? Did you have a lot of friends?
Wow. Let me see. Well, I'm from the suburbs, first of all. Not my family. Our family never lived in the city of Detroit.
Right. What was the actual town? What was the actual town?
Neither of my parents either,
Right.
But
what town? What town? So we know. Our
town was Berkeley, Michigan, which is it's definitely part of Metro Detroit. It's only it's what they call a outer ring suburb.
Yeah.
So 3 miles from 8 Mile Road, which is the cutoff point for Detroit. So, when I was a kid, there wasn't any such thing so much as suburban culture, quote unquote. So like all the stuff that I picked up on and that fascinated me was coming from the city. Like the city of Detroit was the energy center of the metro area,
Quite musical.
So, and a cultural melting pot, amazing legacy of music. It's Detroit's contribution to popular music. You forget it. It goes back from before I was born.
Right.
Anyhow, I mean, it was a cool environment for me because I listened to the radio all the time, and it had its own distinctive thing up until I'd say maybe the 70s. It started to get kind of generic in the mid 70s, but all through my growing up there was just like, it's still got a spirit to it. I'm talking about the city of Detroit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's got like a spirit to it that's all its own still, But anyhow, that's where I grew up, and I grew up with Detroit radio, Detroit TV. Soupy Sales was on. You remember him?
Yeah, sure.
Did you watch him when you were a kid?
Absolutely, with the pie in the face and White Fang, right? White Fang.
Because that was all a Detroit thing. That show was exactly the same in Detroit when I was a kid as it was when he took it to New York, and he influenced me because he was like an absurdist. And that was a real, like a thing with me when I was a kid.
Right. How about school? Good student.
No, I was always daydreaming in school. So no, I wasn't ever really a good student in school.
Right. Where'd you get the music bug? What was your first exposure to actually not music itself, but the instruments? And when did you start playing?
It started with my dad. My dad had a guitar. He, he loved R&B music, which was, unusual for amongst his peers.
Yeah.
But that was his music. And so I just picked up on what he liked. He listened to the rock and roll station because he couldn't get the R&B station. The R&B stations in Detroit were low wattage, so we couldn't get him out where we were. But he listened to the rock and roll station. And then I had cousins who were a little bit older than me that were into rock and roll, and that's it. It was all from my family life and the soundtrack of my family life.
Right. Did you take lessons? Did you take actual guitar or piano lessons?
Yeah, my parents got a piano when I was 9 years old, and I was sent to a woman named Mrs. Mager. I don't know, took lessons from Mrs. Mager. I had like 5 years of piano lessons, and I was kind of sloppy about that, but I did it. I put in my 5 years.
Right. So you learned all the basics, the scales, and able to obviously to read music somewhat. Somewhat, but it really was all by ear from the radio. That's how I learned. So you had the gift, you had the ears, obviously, that just made it easy. I mean, that does separate a lot of the men from the boys per se. When you do actually have the ears, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
Than, just learning.
I can't take any credit for having them, but I did. I could really hear I could really hear the stuff and comprehend it always.
Yeah, my dad was an arranger growing up. Actually, as well, he played. He did Broadway. Just to make a long story short, but he had the ears, and he passed them down, but he only passed down one ear, I think, because I got the ears, but the people that really have the ears are absolutely scary. They could write music on the toilet.
I've seen people that are scary to me, so I know what you're talking about. But what's your dad's name?
Jerry Goldstein was his name. He's since passed, but he was he did a lot of the big band stuff in the 50s on the road. Yeah. He was a rehearsal pianist for Broadway. So the guy was legit. The guy was legit. So I was able to get a lot from him. But it's funny, like you said, never got into that rock and roll bug. We got into it because we were, you got me by a couple of years. I'm 62. So you only got me by a couple of years. You're closer to my sister's age, but it's interesting how we morph into what we're influenced by some of the parents, but then we take it on our own. So you have this reissue. Let's talk about the reissue of 447 or hashtag 447 as they say. Wow. I'm psyched about it. By the way, on your label Shiny Tone Records, correct?
Yeah, they told me I needed an imprint when I did the licensing deal. And I thought, oh, wow. So yeah, it's Shiny Tone. I don't know. I thought of it and that's what it's called.
Okay, this is just in, by the way. Morris Levy, he just called. And
Yeah.
he's looking for his cut on the artwork.
Believe me, we made sure there was no copyright. And plus the attorney of mine that did the deal with Megaforce is friends, not with Morris, but with somebody else with that last name. So I think I'm safe.
I think that's great. I mean, when I read that, I said, "Wait a minute, this is fantastic." Because I've been a good Morris Levy fan. I said, I mean, Tommy James might even be coming after you, for crying out loud.
Oh my God, yeah. You know, I just always was fascinated with records and record labels from the time I was a kid, and it's just a cool design. I've always liked that design. Plus, it's got kind of like a thing to it, you know, like it's a little bit of an in-joke for record fans of our age.
Absolutely.
That I copied the roulette design.
No doubt about it. I love it.
Having fun, you know.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about the vision of reissuing. How did that come up? And talk a little bit about what you feel is going to be with it.
Well, I like the first two albums I did for Razor and Tide. There's one called Miracle of Science. And then there's this one, number 447. In my own view, those are two utterly like definitive albums of mine. Okay. You know, my own take on it now is that it's the first two Warner Brothers albums and then the first two Razor and Tie albums. Those are the ones like at the top, and then the others, they're around, you know. But those four, I think, are like, that's really, and plus whatever I'm doing right now is definitive. But I just have a real fondness for them, and here's why: because like those four are the ones that bring back the best memories for me, like times of my life that I like to look back on, and it's just like straightforward, you know, joy or whatever to look back on them.
Right. Where's the title from?
That's it.
What's the title? What's the derivation of the title?
Just a random number. I couldn't think of an album title. So I thought, okay, how many albums have I made? Oh, 447. It was, you know, fooling around. Because again, it's hard to think of an album title. And that's what I came up with. A random number.
That's amazing.
Hashtag.
Yes. A random hashtag. I was listening to it the other day again. And by the way, folks, I just want to tell you, I have my original CD. Okay. And I've gone through it, and big ups to that. Question. One of my favorite tracks on the album. You're probably going to laugh. And I wonder why it was only instrumental. West of Bald Knob. Give it to me, man. I put an instrumental on my previous Razor and Tie album. There's a track on that one called Theme from Flare Gun. And that was the first time I just went ahead and did an instrumental, you know. And when I was growing up, instrumental rock records were common. That they were like there were always a few. There was, I still love the Duane Eddy records that I loved when I was a little kid. Still love those. Hank Marvin and the Shadows. I got to be a big fan of theirs after the fact, but all that stuff, I loved it. Wild Weekend by the Rebels. I don't know if you know that one. Oh yeah, NRBQ does it. I know that, right? And
they put lyrics to it, yeah.
Yeah.
But the original hit record of Wild Weekend, that was the one that made me go, I can't wait. I've got to learn how to play guitar right now.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So I've always just liked those records. They're cool, and that's all. I just did it because I wanted to do it. Nobody told me that I couldn't do it, which probably would have happened, at a major label. Yeah. But I just did what I wanted to do.
I love it, man. The groove is so great. And you're listening. It's funny because I was listening to it again recently, just to kind of bring me back to something I said, wow, I totally forgot about it. And I'm like grooving and I'm waiting. I'm like waiting, I'm waiting 4 bars, 8 bars. I'm like, Marsh, you coming in? And I'm like, oh, that's right. I forgot. There's no lyrics. But it was great. It was great. And it really does. And I thought about it at the end, it really, really stands on its own. I love it. 2 new songs, Will of the Wood and Santa Fe. So we got to talk about Greg Turner. We got to talk about Greg Turner a little bit, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Will
of the Wind, by the way.
Yeah.
How did I hook up with him? Mutual friend, a guy named Ron Spencer, longtime friend of mine, and talented person. He lives in Santa Fe now, and his neighbor down the street is Greg Turner. And for a minute, Ron had a record company. He was just putting stuff out for fun, to amuse himself. And I was out visiting with him on one of my cross country trips. And he said, I'm putting out this record by Greg Turner. I said, who's that? And he goes, he was the leader of the Angry Samoans back in the late 70s. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember them. And so he gave me this CD, Greg Turner Plays the Hits, it's called. And on my drive back across country, I just listened to this CD and really dug it a lot. It's really hooked me for sure. And Santa Fe is just one of the songs on it that grabbed me. It was kind of the soundtrack, part of the soundtrack of that cross country drive. That's all, it was just in the back of my mind. And I did the 2 new tracks, Will of the Wind and Santa Fe. I recorded those in spring of 2020, which is just like the depths of the lockdown thing. And so they are coming from that moment in time, definitely. I just got out in the studio. I hadn't done anything in a long time and was just having a great thing of like reconnecting with record making. And I was by myself too, because, nobody could come over to the house. Nobody could leave their house, right?
Right.
So I'm just out there doing my solitary thing. And that's all. I wanted to do something with the song. It's a beautiful song. It's lyrically, it's like 2 songs in one. I would say, like the first part of it seems to be like a breakup song, and then the second part of it, I guess, is like a part of maybe an arsonist or something. So it's a dark song. But anyway, and then Will of the Wind is kind of dark too, because it's like, humanity, you asked for it and now you're going to get it, and that kind of thing.
Right.
Because that's the spirit of that song, Like,
yeah, I mean, his spirit is
Will of the Wind. You can't do it. You can't mess with the will of the wind.
Can't with nature, right? No, it's true. And, coming from a guy who wrote The Pharmacist from Walgreens.
Oh, that's right. That's another one of them, yeah. So, and there's one called I've Become Flaccid from Eating Bad Acid.
Yeah.
And there's a great one called I Dreamed I Met Lou Reed.
Yes.
And,
yes.
I just really dug this stuff. I thought it was great. But the Santa Fe stands apart because it's just very hypnotic and
yeah, it's real. It's real.
Anyway, I like that one.
It's real. So how about touring? You still enjoying it? You still feel the need to get out there? You're doing it because you want to do it. What's the road like for Marshall Crenshaw?
Yeah, I still do love it. And I really knew that for real when I couldn't do it anymore. It's like then. I mean, I knew anyway that it's just something that was really important. It's what I do, kind of. That's all. I love being out in the world, the country, really, because I just toured the United States, the lower 48 mostly. All the years I've played, I'd say maybe like 25% of the gigs I've ever done have been in the state of New Jersey, so I mostly stick to the Northeast, but I do get out and around, and it's just, it's good for me. It's good. Playing the shows is like spiritually good for me, It just is. So
Yeah. And you're
I
not,
don't
and
plan
you're
on
not
stopping.
really, yeah, and you're not really away from home as much. So you give the wife a little break that she needs from you.
Yeah, like back over the years, I'd say on average, I play like 40 shows a year, so that's what, like 60, 70 days out of the year where I'm not home. I like being home. Home is good.
Yeah, home is good. Not to pry in any way, but just financially over the years, you've signed some good deals. You're happy with what you got. You're publishing. You've done the right thing. I mean, we're getting older. The chapter is closing on us. I mean, you don't necessarily have to kill yourself out there, right? You're doing okay.
Yeah, I am. I'm fine. And, I did sign some stupid things that were stupid of me to sign when I was young, but it wasn't, I wouldn't say that I ever got ripped off. I never did, with this one situation I had, when there was money to be made, I made some, I would have made more if I'd been smarter, but I wasn't smart, about the business, but it's fine. I got rescued from my own stupidity enough times with luck that happened. I did kind of bumble along, but, I got up to speed eventually. Right this minute, I'd say that I control about half of my intellectual property. I'm good. I can't complain. Anything I could complain about, I got to mostly blame myself for.
Right.
And I can take it, Yeah. I'm good. I did okay in show business.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of the business, what's your take on the music biz today, and any advice for upcoming musicians, kids, people that want to, where's it at? I mean, I know the cap has been the ceiling's been blown off in a certain way, but what's your take on it? Because you got, you're kind of one of these guys that kind of has a feel for what's happening. And I know I hesitate to say how, intellectual per se, but you do have that. So what's your take on that?
Well, it's always different than however it was 20 years ago, like when I was wanting to into it, it was different then than it had been 10, 15 years previous, like all the 50s rock that I grew up with. It was like all mafia controlled kind of labels. And we already talked about that a little bit, but it's just always different. And I mean, whatever it is now, fortunately, I don't have to deal with it. I can just do what I'm doing and that's all good. But I was saying before that I couldn't have done this or couldn't have done that when I was in the major label system. But I benefited from it, of course, like hugely. And some of the time I loved it being in it. Some of the time I hated being in it, But anyway, if you want to be involved in the arts or popular music, there's no roadmap for you. You just got to go out and look for a path, find it yourself. It's always been that. It was like that for me. Nobody handed me a roadmap or told me anything. I just had to kind of keep stepping.
Interesting. So you still think it's kind of like grassroots in a way still. You got to just get out there and ply your course in some sort of path, in some sort of way.
Yeah, exactly. That's always got to be the basis of it. The people that are motivated to create something and send something out into the world, that's the basis of it. You still got people like that, They just have to figure out how to navigate the business, whatever the business is. It can be just a different scenario for everybody. It was simpler when I was doing my thing as a young person, because the thing was get on a major label. That was what everybody wanted.
Yeah, get a deal.
Yeah, and so it's not like that anymore necessarily, or maybe it is. I don't know, but it's not exactly the same as it was then. But it's always changing anyway. Always has. Going back to piano rolls and sheet music and forward from there.
That's true. That is true. Anybody in the business or that you keep regular touch with that we might know that you have a good relationship with these days?
I do. Like I said, it seems like everybody I know is somebody that I connected with through playing with them or somehow or another. It's all my whole life is kind of centered around that.
Gotcha.
But I can't think of anybody particular.
Right. So I have what's Marshall Crenshaw really like? Are you an even keel guy? How your moods? Tell us. I think some people always want to know because you're out in the limelight a little bit. You've been the DJ, you've been an actor, you've done a lot of things. You're out there. What's Marshall Crenshaw really like? Would you say?
I'm like this, like this is what I'm really like.
You are actually.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's
down to
the
earth,
best I can do.
Very down to earth, I think. So at the end of every interview, I try to do a little thing called 45 RPM singles, just some quick hits, maybe 3 or 4 questions before we take it down to the road. So the first question is guilty pleasure of Marshall Crenshaw, something that us listening might be surprised to hear from you, whether it be music, whether it be just some, Real Housewives.
No, I don't watch that.
I'm kidding, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I don't subscribe to the concept of guilty pleasure anyway, because it's like, if I like it, I like it. I don't care if you don't like it, But
okay.
You know what I've been watching on TV lately? This is my wife is like, I like to watch on YouTube. They had these old shows from the 1950s and 60s. Championship Bowling is this one that I watch a lot. And before that, it was one called Celebrity Bowling. And the first episode I saw of Celebrity Bowling, it was the 4 Lennon sisters from the Lawrence Welk Show.
Sure, of course.
And they none of them could bowl at all, and one of them got up and threw a gutter ball, and then another gutter ball, and then the other one got up and threw 2 gutter balls. And I'm like, this is perfect entertainment right here. Watching the Lennon sisters throw gutter balls. I just like, my mind is a complete blank and I'm really loving it, So,
Great.
I got hooked.
Fantastic.
It's like it calms me or something to watch these dead people bowl. I don't know what it is, but so I watched that on TV.
That's great.
Some of the time.
That's great.
Then
That's great.
it's like that and Stephen Colbert in the morning because we don't have cable, but we watch it in the morning.
Gotcha. All right, that's a great one. The Celebrity Bowling is a classic. I mean, I don't think you could top that really. So that's a good one.
That's a great one.
That is a great one. Sports fan?
Yeah, I'm a baseball fan. I'm looking forward to February when there'll be spring training games.
Who's your favorite
on
team?
TV? Well, the Detroit Tigers are kind of my team.
Right.
But there's sometimes there are seasons where I'm not going to waste my time on them because they're not
I'm a New Yorker. What do you expect? Oh, I feel your pain.
Yeah, I like the New York teams too, and I've had spells of really being engaged with either the Mets or the Yankees. I don't have a real
right. The Tigers, going back to the Tigers, back when we were back in the day, Danny McClain, Lolich, K-Line, those are your boys, right? Those are your boys.
The 68 team. Yeah, the 68 team and the 84 team.
Oh, they were off the charts. They were off the charts.
And then in the 2000s, they had some really great teams, But anyhow, I've got interested in them when I was a kid. So
sounds great.
That's
cool. Excellent. I figured that. Favorite road foods?
It's hard to get food on the road for me because I don't like to eat junk food. It's poison. Sorry, but
that's fair.
I just, I don't know. What do I eat on the road now? I just try not to eat bad food,
Right.
I try not to eat factory farm food or processed food.
So you really watch your health. Okay, that's fair.
That's my taste. Fair. I do.
That's fair. Okay. And one of the last ones, your favorite cover song to do. I'm going to tell you mine of yours.
Okay.
My favorite of yours cover is Take Me With You, Prince.
Oh boy, I didn't expect that to be the one.
Incredible.
But thank you. No, it was.
How's yours?
Yeah,
What's
that was
yours?
really fun. Well, that's a great one, because I don't know, we did the best we could with it. We did kind of a hillbilly version of it, but what I remember was there were. Let me see. I was at Eric Amble's studio. Eric Amble, you know who he is? He's a really great rock and roller.
Yeah. What band was he? He was in the Del Lords. What band was he in?
That's right. He was in the Del Lords.
Okay, good. Whew, that was a good. Got me there.
Yeah, a record producer mostly now, and so it was me and Andy York and Roscoe, and then Diego Voglino came over and played some drums. No bass players, right? It's just 3 guitar players. So when it came time to do the bass, I thought, well, let's be like Spinal Tap and we'll all play a bass. So we did. I got one, and Roscoe, and I was just doing like the low notes, just the thump, the lowest low notes. And then they each came up with the bass part. So we did the big bottom Spinal Tap thing on the bass. But anyhow, playing live, I like to play this one called Bob Dylan's 115th Dream. I learned all the verses to that, and we do it. I do it when I play with the Bottle Rockets guys. And it's just a funny, great song about our country that's still perfectly up to date, even though it was written in 1964.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. That's crazy, right?
Yeah. But anyway, I love that one. I like playing Crying, Waiting, Hoping from La Bamba. Lots, if I don't like it, I don't play it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So I want to say thank you so much for taking some time. Give us your update. What's cooking? The shout outs coming up. I know you have some tour dates coming. You have the reissue of number 447. We know that.
Yeah.
That's out already, correct? That is out?
Yes, it is. It's out right now on all formats, vinyl, CD, streaming, whatever you want. It's there. It's out there now. And so I got that. There's a lot, like I said before, there was a live album that came out at the end of last year called it's called The Wild Exciting Sounds of Marshall Crenshaw. And there's a reissue of my first album, 40th anniversary reissue of my first album that comes out in November.
That's my favorite. Big time.
Big great. Time. And then shows. I play with the Smithereens sometimes. I don't know if you know that.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, but I do. So I've got some of that coming up. I've got my own shows in the spring and fall and summer. Just all of the above. Whatever I do,
I love it.
More. I ain't dead yet. No.
Are you kidding me? Not at all. You look great. I mean, you sound great.
Thank you.
Any shout outs, as they say in 2022? You want to say a shout out to anybody?
Just whoever's watching and listening. Thank you for your interest. That's all. Shout out to you. It was interesting talking to you.
Absolutely. I hope you had a good time. I really do appreciate you taking the time, Marshall. I'm a big fan. I could talk to you for hours. I think you got a lot going on, and I look forward to the new stuff too. I'm hoping that the dates coming up, I can come down maybe and knock on the door. I'll say, remember that guy who interviewed you? Love to see
Most certainly. Yeah. Do it. Okay, Louie.
Love to see you. Okay, my brother. Feel good. God bless. Hope the family's good. Stay safe. Stay well. And
you too. Have a
peace. Thanks again. Really. I really, really appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.
See you, man.